past questions, and others too. There are some groups that have been created that they are also benefiting from in one way or the other.
Okay. And what about you? How many months more till you write?
So probably next month, I guess. Right. So next month. So
And what are your preparations?
so like you said, we went for an induction service, and all what they said was we should rely on past questions.
Looking at most of the conversations we've had with some of our friends, it looks like they are lacking the materials, like materials to aid them in their preparation. And if those ones could be provided, like if there could be avenues how they can get
what
them.
materials are
Like,
those?
you see, this year it's going to be in a different form, unlike the previous year. So if the materials for the various areas that will be writing are available in their quantities, I think it will help.
So you heard some students of Atraco asking for learning materials. We've already heard from Professor Stephen Adair, who says that teachers should not be given any such past questions or materials ahead of these exams. But on today's show, we are aiming to explore the myriad of factors that might have contributed to this unprecedented turn of events. But beyond dissecting the causes, we are also seeking to find out if there's any hope amidst this disillusionment. And we'll be very grateful if you could join us. Are you a teacher? Are you a parent? Are you concerned about this mass failure of teachers for these licensure exams? And what do you think should be done? And we have some very interesting people connecting with us. We have Kweku Asante. He will join us shortly. He ran perhaps the biggest education CSO in Ghana, the Africa Education Watch. We also have Reverend Isaac Owusu. Reverend Isaac Owusu is a national president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT. Jonathan Junu is a former president of the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana. And my colleague, Kweku Asante, he brings in some refreshing perspective on this matter, someone who wanted to be a teacher before venturing into this media profession. So these are the gentlemen who are joining us to connect on this very important matter. If you were told that teachers, the ones who teach your kids, 83% of them who took these licensure exams failed. And some of the questions, I'll be reading some of the questions to you and some of the interesting answers some of the teachers shared. You'd find it quite amusing. So let me start first from Nat. These are teachers and they may have some interesting perspective on that. So Reverend, thank you very much for joining us on Ghana Connect.
Kweku, thank you for having me this evening.
Right. So,
and a greeting to your cherished listeners and my colleagues on the other side.
Jonathan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. Jonathan Junu, like I told you, is the former president of TTAG, the Teacher Training Association of Ghana. And then my colleague, Kweku Asante, joining us in studio. Shandoff.
Right, Kweku.
Right. So let me start with you, Reverend Isaac Owusu, and find out. I mean, for people who are listening, who perhaps heard about the licensure exam for the first time, even despite the kind of framework we've laid as the background to this show, what was that all about?
Well, thank you once again. If you recall, in the 2008 Education Act, the Act made a provision for the National Teaching Council as a regulatory body to conduct exams and issue licenses to prospective teachers. That is, people who are having access to training either at the university level or the colleges of education. So that when they finish, then they will conduct this licensure exam for them. And then if they are successful, they issue the license to enable them to join the profession. So the first exam started somewhere in 2018. That is where it started. But the teachers who are already in the service, who are already doing their work, are not part of this kind of exams. The in-service teachers are not taking part of the licensure exams. What the in-service teachers are supposed to do is the continuous professional development during their work to enable them to renew their license. So that is the difference, Kweku.
Right. I mean, interesting. So, Jonathan, some of your colleagues, I'm sure, may be writing these exams, or some of your seniors, or some of the persons that you led during your time at the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana. Are you really happy, or what is your reaction to the kind of results we've seen in these licensure exams?
All right. Thank you very much for having me. I am one of the people to write the exams next. I mean, the next group of students who will be writing exams. I am one of them. So if you say maybe my seniors, I'm part just to get you informed. I think that the results we are seeing today, we must be honest to ourselves. The results we are seeing today is just a reflection of government's inability to ensure quality education at the basic school level right to the senior high school. That is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is that what we are seeing today is not like a fresh group of students sat for the exams and then they performed this poor, but we have people who had research right from the birth of this exams, I mean the license exams, and then they came together to sit for this exam. It tells you that the people have sat for the paper time and over and they keep failing. If you check any time fresh graduates sit for the exams, you will see that we always record about 75 to 80% passes. And that tells us that there is a good performance. But this very poor performance we are experiencing is as a result of a compilation of people from the very start of this license exam who had refers up to now. So it tells you that the people who were not doing well from the beginning have just piled up, and the same exams was given to them with the same standard, and they couldn't pass as they were not able to pass in the past. And there is something that I would like to clear. Since this issue came out, there's been a perception out there, there's some kind of impression that has been created that teachers have failed the license exam. That is not true. Those who sat for that exam are not teachers. Oh, I've been hearing people bashing teachers here and there, and I really felt sad for them. Let's put it into context that these people are not teachers.
These are persons who are aspiring to be
Because you
teachers.
must pass well.
Right? So these are
Yes.
persons who are aspiring to be teachers. These are persons who have completed their training in the colleges of education and are aspiring to be one. So if they pass these exams, then they could get into the classroom. Now that they failed, it means that those who have failed aren't getting into the classroom. Is that the point?
Yes, that is the point, because the NTC exams or the license exam is there as a mechanism to check if there are people who are not fit. Let me put it in that way. If there are people who are not fit to go into the classroom, the system is able to take them out. And I think that is what we are seeing currently.
Right, interesting. Let me throw that to Shandoff. And Shandoff, Juno starts off by making a point about how this is a reflection of the education system. Is that a position you agree with, that this massive failure is an indictment on the entire education system of our country?
Well, not necessarily. That is not the position I want to articulate on this matter. I think, I mean, generally, that using exams as a metric for the assessment of the competence of teachers is rather a problematic approach. Why do I say so? If you look at that profession itself, that industry of knowledge dissemination, it is very complex in nature, and if you were to open it up, you will see that to be an effective or a resourceful teacher, it's not all about the retainment of knowledge. It's not merely being able to, as it were, retain some information in your head. No, it's not just the mental acumen. There is also the aspect of your delivery methodologies, how you go about dispensing the very knowledge that you have retained. And then there is also a more important variable, which I consider to be your people skills as a teacher, how you are able to interact with the students that you engage, and how you relate with their peculiarities while you are dispensing knowledge to them. So looking at the nature of the job, we should not in any way create a system or a protocol of assessment that focuses only on the mental acumen of the would-be instructors. What then happens to the delivery methodologies? What then happens to their people skills?
Yeah, but Shandoff, these are, lawyers, like teaching, like law, for instance, a profession. They have that final exams, that the bar exams, that takes you to becoming a lawyer. So why shouldn't we have same for teachers?
No, I am not. I'm not dismissing or rubbishing the essence of a protocol or a system that sieves the wheat from the chaff. I'm not saying we shouldn't have that. Indeed, we should. But I'm saying that even in so doing, how we are going about it appears to be the problem. And at the risk of a repetition, let me indicate once again that if you look at the teaching profession, as far as I have observed, and you rightly indicated that once upon a time I was nurturing that ambition, it's true. As far as I have observed, if you are going to be a good teacher, it's not merely about the amount of knowledge you are able to retain. It's not just the intellectual capacity. There is the aspect of your instructional methodologies, how you go about disseminating the knowledge. There is also the aspect of your people skills, how you interact with your students. Okay, so if you are going to create a system to pass or fail prospective teachers, make sure that that system incorporates all of these factors. What we have now only seems to appeal to the aspect of the knowledge retainment, okay, the memory aspect, the mental acumen. But that is not all there is to being a teacher. Indeed, we have seen teachers who are very smart. I mean, by the books, they are smart, they are extremely brilliant, but their teaching methodologies are not so effective, and they are not even able to, engage their students properly. So you can't create a framework that only focuses on, okay, you have a set of questions. What is this? What is that? Explain. If the fellow cannot explain, then the person is not fit to be a teacher. What about the person's people skills? What about the person's effective instructional methodologies? Let me end on this note for this particular commentary. You would have seen some time ago on social media a video that was circulating about how a teacher had devised innovative ways of greeting, her kids and all of that, and it was very beautiful. Those children, even if they didn't have the ability or they were not well disposed to learn, because of those extra dynamics that the teacher had been able to incorporate, you realize that they'll come out to become enthusiastic learners. So it's not merely about having the knowledge. Maybe I should even tie it into this journalistic practice. It's not enough to, as it were, acquire a degree in journalism and then think you become a flamboyant storyteller. It's more than that. So because the dynamics far outweigh knowledge retainment and intellectual capacity, the structures for assessment also should be all inclusive and encompassing. That's my argument, really.
Right. And Junu and Reverend, you can come in at any point when you want to make a point. But before I come to Reverend, we've seen some of the questions, the questions that were set for these teachers, these aspiring teachers, and some of them are pretty much what some will call very easy questions, but some of them did not answer. Could not answer well. There's this question, for instance, about after teaching a lesson, a teacher decided to assess himself and consider new ways of teaching the same lesson another time. The teacher's action can best be described as. Then they are the options. Which of the following concepts depicts systematic collaboration and interaction between schools and group of people residing within the school vicinity or within that community? We've also seen an essay type question where a teacher was attempting to write an essay, and the title, "Unemployed Graduates in My Community." This particular candidate could not spell minister. They did not know how to format or align the address. I mean, some of these are making waves on social media. Reverend, these are really serious things that one would have expected that persons who have passed out of school and were just about getting to be sent to the classroom to teach will be able to answer. You've seen some of these marking schemes and the questions. How do you see that, and how is that justified?
Kweku, in the first place, let me say that it is unethical for individual scripts to be put on social media. You see, even you, when you were a student and you write exams and your lecturer marks you down, and you want to even get the reason why you were marked down, there are legal process that you have to follow before the institution you attended can release your script for you. You see, for the fact that people have gone to write exams and they didn't do well, it doesn't mean that we should ridicule those people. Because you see, these people who wrote the exams, as my colleague earlier said, they are not teachers who are in the service. They are potential teachers, people who are striving to enter into the profession. And the regulation says that if you are not successful, you have the chance to rewrite another paper. But all of a sudden, people didn't do well, and their essay, the way they answer the question, their scripts are all over social media. It is unethical. And so for whoever did that, I think the person should come out and apologize to this, because you see, you are not only ridiculing them, but you are damping their spirit. Look, we as a union, our stand is that there should be a stakeholders meeting, because there are questions we are also asking. Because before any individual can write this licensure exams, that person must go through either the universities that offer educational courses or attend the colleges of education. And whoever go to the universities that offers education or the college of education, they themselves, they have a set of questions that they offer this student. And if you are unable to pass your colleges of education exams, there is no way you can pass, you can write this licensure exam. So the question is, these people, when they were at the universities or the college of education, how did they manage to pass their exams? Because if you're unable to pass, there is no way you can even be out there to do your service. You see, so is it that the institutions, be it the universities or the college of education, didn't take time to teach these people, and how did they pass their exams? You see, so it looks as if there are certain unseeming agenda to ridicule teachers and paint a picture as if the people are blockheaded and they are good for nothing. That shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, but Reverend, are you not focusing on the wrong things about how the questions and how these exam scripts leaked? The answers are that bad, and people are genuinely concerned. Maybe the ethical concerns you raise are good points, but are you not putting the horse before the cart in terms of what is really important here, giving some of the answers we've seen these potential teachers answer?
Kweku, I am not. You see, we are not disputing the fact that what has happened is a challenge. Yes, we will admit that about 7,000 potential teachers sat for exams and only 1,000 plus passed. Nobody will be happy. But the way and manner we are handling the situation, you see, institutions, other professions do write exams. And not everybody will pass. And as I told you, you see, the licensure exam started in 2018. Of course, people go through, some don't go through. Your profession, journalists write exams, not everybody passes. But you see, the kind of picture we are painting, even initially people were saying that teachers have gone to write exams and they are failed. No, but the people are not in the classroom teaching. So for our worry, that's why we are saying that, look, there should be stakeholders engagement so that we look at the way forward. Because you see, if somebody can go through the college of education for 4 years, the person is able to pass the main exams. NTC is not the one training the teachers. NTC is a regulatory body. So that is why we need to meet and reconcile what the challenge is, so that we will not repeat what has happened going forward.
So what exactly is the challenge, Doc? I mean, these students, like you said, just came from their colleges. They were taught, they passed that exams before they are taking these final licensure exams. What exactly could be the problem for some of these failures that we've seen?
That is why we are calling for stakeholders meeting, so that those in authority will be in a better position to let us know the genesis of the whole issue.
Shandoff.
Because we are union. Of course, when the people
Kweku,
come out,
I've been listening to Rev over the period, and I understand his sentiments. He's appalled by the widespread public ridicule that has characterized the a massive failure, and I understand, but I think that is a peripheral issue. I mean, indeed, the mockery does not detract from the substance of the conversation that we are having, which is the fact that teachers have indeed failed. So why did it happen? But I want to reiterate the point I've been making all the while. The method of assessment, that whole benchmark, that system that seeks to churn out teachers, I maintain is very problematic. Why? Because this is a professional and practical hands-on job. You can pass the exams, you can score 100 over 100, you can still enter the classroom, and you would not be the finest of instructors. Why can't we devise a mechanism that tests the practicability of, I mean, the practical finesse of the would-be teachers as well? What is this whole emphasis on, arithmetic and grammar and essay and all of that? I'm not dismissing them, okay? Indeed, I'm very strong on those. You need to be able to build a significant amount of professional skills and competences. But for this particular job, if really we are concerned about training very resourceful teachers, then we are needlessly placing too much emphasis on the theoretical aspects as well. I mean, alone, we are placing just too much emphasis on that. Somebody can, of course, pass the exams, ace the test, and the person who go to the classroom, the person will still not be able to even integrate and gel well with the students. Are we not concerned about that? Is that not an issue? Okay, so I agree. Yes, let's have a stakeholder conversation. But in that stakeholder conversation, the thrust of such engagement should be the benchmark in the very first place. Let's revise it. We can have a system where, look, we can indeed conduct the theoretical exams. Let's say that could constitute maybe 40% or 50% of the whole assessment regime. Then we would also have the practical session, which would also comprise a significant part. We merge the two together, and that becomes the determinant for who can be in the classroom and who cannot be in the classroom. Because I maintain that this is a very practical field. It's a very, very practical, hands-on job. And again, like our job, the job that we do, the job of storytelling and interviews and all of that. Kweku, it doesn't just take the fact that it doesn't just to be an effective journalist, it's not just all about maybe going to a training institution and passing. I mean, you need that passion. You need to command some fluency over the language, your gravitas, your storytelling techniques, your creativity. All of those come into play, and it applies the same as the teaching profession. So let's revise it, yes, but now let's combine the theoretical aspect with very practical routines and methodologies of assessment.
I'll come to Junu on that point shortly, but let me throw what Shandoff just said to you, Reverend. So, I mean, I know that when this licensure exams issue came up, some people kicked against it. Eventually, government has been able to push it through, and it's been on for a few years now. I mean, what do you say to Shandoff's point about being able to not centering the marks or everything on an exams that will take an hour or two, but mixing it with some practicalities in terms of how these persons will be able to go into the classrooms and teach? I mean, what do you say to that?
Yes, I think I agree in a way with my brother. Because you see, if you look at the teachers already in the service, like I told you earlier on, we do not write this kind of licensure exams. What we are supposed to do is to build your competency skills while teaching, develop yourself to enable you to renew your license. So I think that is why we are proposing for this stakeholders so that we will be able to let the authorities know that, look, can we have a way, because that 1 hour exam shouldn't determine whether an individual can be a teacher or not. You see, because if the person goes to the College of Education, the sort of training the person receives, the colleges of education is developing the heart, the hand, and the head. And so you can't use just 1 hour, 2 hours to say that, you search for 50 questions you couldn't answer. So hence you don't qualify for some of this. You don't qualify to be a teacher. There are more to it than this. You see, so in a way I agree with him. But can we have it as an entrance exam? Because once we have agreed for teaching to be a profession, of course, we are not afraid of using any proper means to be called professionals. But a situation whereby people will go and search for 1 hour, 30 minutes, and then they determine your fate to become a teacher or not to become a teacher. That one, there is a challenge to it, my brother.
Yeah, Juno, what do you say to that?
Yes, I think that I side with what Babasi has said. It's very true. If you look at what we go through, the kind of training we go through in the college, it's very complex in making sure that we are built so that when we get to the classroom, we will not only deliver the book side, the content, but also put up a practical space where the learners will be able to understand what we are teaching. So it's very good that we test the practical side of the teachers, as mentioned by the earlier speakers. We really have to look at that aspect of it. And just look at something. We were told that due to the new reforms that are coming, the next batch of students who are going to write the exams, there won't be anything like essay. Everything is going to be objectives. So you have, let's say, 100 objectives. And anybody at all can sit for that exams and pass. Some of the people who we claim today that they have failed, some of them can sit for that exams because it's objective. They can go through successful. So the question is, are we able to test their ability to deliver in the classroom? So we should focus on that aspect also, as mentioned by the speakers already. And I also think that one aspect of it, that there is also a call saying that, look, let's come out with a course pack at the final year, so that when the students are at their final year, there is a whole program for them to study based on what they will be writing in the license exam, and then there are tests on that. That's another aspect we can take this exam through, rather than just setting any type of question and then putting it before the student to write. And when people
Professor Adair, we
put them out there to ridicule them or something.
Professor Adair, that we spoke to him during the week, and he said that teachers should not be given any packs for all that. You've been in the college before. Do you sense that there's this popular trope, and someone just sent in a message that I'm just reading, and it caught my attention, about the kind of persons who end up in the teacher training colleges? Are these persons who really want to teach, or just going there because they believe that is some form of a shortcut, or like their last option, really? Is it something that is true, or is just a trope? Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Kweku.
Yeah, Jonathan, can you hear me?
Can you come again? Yes, you are clear now.
I was asking about a message a listener just sent in about persons who end up in the colleges of education, not because they want to be there, but because they feel like that is their last option, really. Is this something that really happens from talking to your colleagues, or this is a trope?
I disagree. If I see no reason why someone would push him or herself into something that he didn't want to do. I don't know where that is coming from. I think over the period, I've also heard that from some people, that they believe some of the people who go into the college go there because that's their last stop. That is not true.
Well, for that concern, for me, it's neither here nor there. If your motivation is not...
It's not concerning. If teaching is a passion job, they say that the reward is in heaven, because maybe the salary on earth is not that good.
Right.
So the reward is in heaven. If you don't have passion for that job, how do you do it?
That is why we need regimes, all right? We need stringent regimes to be able to, as it were, inculcate that passion in you. There are people who have the passion, they enter, they are enrolled, and then they lose the passion. what becomes of them as well. There are those who do not even have it at all. They go and then it is imbibed. It becomes a part of them. So their disposition prior to entry should not be a matter of discussion. Whether you wanted it, whether maybe it was all about maybe just going to school after senior high school and all of those are, I mean, they may be concerns, but they are not substantive for me. If we have very thorough mechanisms to groom the teachers when you come in, so long as you have entered, you should be able to be a professional. I mean, we should, by the time you are coming out as somebody who has passed, you should be a well baked finished product. It's like somebody who is very reckless or doesn't have time discipline, but the person enters the military. Whether you like it or not, at the time of your passing out, there are some habits that you would have inculcated. Why? Because we have strong internal mechanisms that would, make you literally, it would groom you into what the profession demands. So whether you wanted to be a teacher or not, I mean, prior or otherwise, it may be an issue, but it's not a big deal.
It's not a big concern for you, Shandov. I mean, Reverend, is that a position you agree with, that it should not be concerning whether or not the persons who end up in the College of Education, even if not all and some, about whether they are passionate about a job or they are just ending up there because they want to be somewhere?
Well, Kweku, even if you don't have the passion, once you get opportunity to be there, you need to psych yourself to embrace whatever you are going to be given. You see, I know someone who is currently in the law school, and the lecturer asks her, why do you want to be a lawyer? I said, my father pushed me to be here. You see, but at the end of the day, this person who said the father pushed her to be there, it is because she is not getting the concept right. But if she is able to psych herself and grab whatever she's being taught at the university to come out as a lawyer, you see, so for me, I don't see the head and the tail of people that should be their last resort and people are not ready. Look, there are people who are born to be teachers. There are people who are not teachers but are trained to be teachers. You get it? So once they have gotten the opportunity to enter into the institution, they have to psych themselves and be ready to work, because after all, nobody handcuff you to send you to a college of education or to a university to become a teacher.
I mean, very interesting thoughts there. I want to do this round. We've heard from Professor Stephen Adair. We've also heard from the former Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Mankwa, about limiting the number of resets. Let me start with you, Shandov. Do you think such persons should have a perpetual number of resets, as in they should be able to resit until they pass and end up in the classroom? Or we must get to a point where we say you can resit twice. If you don't pass, kiss goodbye your desire to teach.
I think that is also not a very healthy policy proposition, and that is because there may be prevailing circumstantial factors that would impede someone's ability to pass an exams at a particular period in time. All right, so and those normally they are externalities that we may not be able to control, so don't place a cap on it. If you say, for example, that an individual is entitled to take that exams twice, and then in the first instance the person failed because of, let's say, a psychological challenge, the other instance it was another issue, are you then, I mean, we really cannot truncate people's career aspirations. I mean, that is not ideal. It doesn't seem ideal. What is important is that the regime of assessment must simply be rigorous. That's all. It's not about the number of times, really. Okay, it should be open for all. Everybody should have uninterrupted, unfettered access. You come, you try as many times. Indeed, I mean, there are people who actually appear to do well in life after multiple, trials. There are people who is right at the first instance. So for that, I mean, it's not a proposition that I think we should welcome in this discourse at all.
Reverend,
not at all.
Reverend, should we limit the number of resets students can take with these licensure exams, or we should just open a floodgate? Students should be able to should be given that amount of time to be able to take until they pass.
Kweku, what I'm even thinking is that instead of allowing someone to pass through the College of Education for 4 years, the person passes all the exams from year one. Then, at the final year, the person is supposed to write these licensure exams. And you said that the person didn't pass. You see, why can't we then now bring it from the start? That instead of those that qualify to enter into the College of Education, the university, after all, it's about literacy and numeracy and whatever. Can we now bring it from the start? If you are those who are successful, then you qualify to enter into the institution. So that at the end of it, you write your main exams and you come out as a teacher.
Okay, do you know what do you say to that?
I think I equally disagree to that position of putting a cap on the number of times people sit for the exam. I don't think that is important. People should be allowed to write the exams as many as they are willing to. They should be allowed to do. What we should rather focus on as a nation is, I think that we should revisit the policy of licensing teachers. Let's look at the whole structure that is used. If NTC is not ready to test the practical aspects or the practical knowledge of the teachers, then they should be able to create that system. I mentioned this earlier. Let the students write the exams at the end of their final year, create a course pack. Because if you ask one of the reasons why this exams has come to stay, they will tell you that, we want to test the professionality of the students as they are aiming to be teachers and all that. Yet there is no single course pack in the college that expose this student to some of these things. So let's come out with a course pack that will guide them as to what is expected of them at the end of their year as far as the license exam is concerned, so that they are exposed to some of these things. Because there is nothing like giving past questions for them to go through. Where the current system that they're introducing, the reform, they don't have anything like that to go through.
It's not everybody who is cut out to be a teacher. And so if you have been trying and you are not successful, why don't you try other areas? Maybe your talent lies somewhere that you have not been able to unearth or discover. And so you may have to look at other places too, and then probably you make it. I think one thing that we should try to move away from is trying to make the exam easy for teachers.
So personally, most of us are doing our preparation on our own. It depends on how you will do your own preparation. Some are relying on past questions, and others too. There are some groups that have been created that they are also benefiting from in one way or the other.
Okay. And what about you? How many months more till you write?
So probably next month, I guess. Right. So next month. So.
And what are your preparations?
So like you said, we went for an induction service, and all what they said was we should rely on past questions.
Looking at most of the conversations we've had with some of our friends, it looks like they are lacking the materials, like materials to aid them in their preparation. And if those ones could be provided, like if there could be avenues how they can get
what
them.
Materials are
like,
those?
You see, this year it's going to be in a different form, unlike the previous year. So if the materials for the various areas that will be writing are available in their quantities, I think it will help.
So these are some of the teachers we spoke to, or aspiring teachers we spoke to from Atraco, who speak about this mass failure and what should happen. So about in the next 10 minutes maximum, we should be wrapping up. But this opens up a real interesting can about how teaching, the profession, and how these things are leading up. Before we wrap up, though, I'd like to hear from my guest what exactly they think that we can do to be able to reverse this trend of failure. But we want to take some of the comments that you've been sending us social media, and then we can get into the recommendations of our guests. Paul is sending us a message from Esuchari. He says there was a system to confirm you as a teacher right from college in your first year of teaching, where you demonstrate teaching competencies. What happened to that? After licensure exams, you come to the field with license, but no teaching materials, no textbooks, etc. to work with. This leaders power, I can't think for just defending public purse for their selfish gains. That is Paul sending us a message from Esuchari. Paul, thanks for connecting with us. This one says, good evening, George. If the focus is on licensure exams, then what is the essence of the teaching practice, confirmation, and orientation? This is from Hilton Man, who is also sending us that from Gallo Sota. Hilton, thanks very much for connecting with us. This one also says, good evening, Joy FM. The issue on the discussion is interesting. Look at the problem has a root cause. The fundamental is weak. Basic education is less resource. Another twist of it is the reliability and validity of the exams. By this, we can address the problem. This is Zach sending us a message. That's Zach. Team Joy, Michael from Abokobi says, Team Joy, this is just a tip of the iceberg. The bottom line is the products from the SHS are just not fit for the tertiary education. What is more dangerous is what is going on in the health training institutions. Some of us are afraid what will become of the health sector if in the coming years, because the quality of human resource being trained, the nurses, the midwives in particular, we are seated on a time bomb. Michael from Abokobi sent us that one. This one says, I think all the people responsible are running away from the fact, and this is the fact that those who wrote the exams are not regular students from training colleges, but students from distance institutions and colleges who pass the exam sometimes through dubious means and doing their best to make it to government payroll due to unemployment. Come on, the exams we write in regular colleges of education is no joke, and we will not hear of this mammoth failure because we've been trained for it. Let's redefine education. Let's redefine distance education in the country. Edward is sending us that from Keta. So a lot of your messages coming in. Let me take this final two. It says, first of all, who taught them at the teacher training colleges? Secondly, what are their level of their basic education? Did they pass the entry examination to the training colleges? I've had encounter with a few, and it's sad. One couldn't identify a rectangular. I'm sure they get into training colleges just for safety. That is the allowances, free accommodation, and possibly long holidays. Nana from Spintex Road sent us that one. Nana, thanks for sending us that. This one says, politicians push people into professional schools. We have to take our time to know that these teachers found their way into training colleges. The results will answer many questions. Opare from Abokobi sent us that. I'm Sam Bannerman from the USA. Examination is a process to determine individuals' teaching competency. 85% of our teachers failing the exam is very unfortunate. It's 83% actually. Sometimes their failures might be the examination atmosphere, intimidation. If you did pass these exams, you are out from teaching. And that is Sam Bannerman sending us this from USA. Interesting one from Bannerman there. And this one says, evening, I went for a diploma education. I was teaching then in Ghana. On my teaching practice, my supervisor came to mark me down for using inadequate teaching materials. Meanwhile, I was using WAEC-approved teaching materials I'd been using for my students. The bottom line, the supervisor was not a science teacher, so my explanation was perceived to be a challenge. So a number of your messages coming in. Very interesting. Share your views with us.
Join us now on Twitter, #Ghana Connect Live, Facebook, Joy 99.7 FM, or send us a WhatsApp on 0244 340 437, and we will call you back. Join the nation's biggest conversation now and connect to authority.
So very interesting views from our listeners. Very interesting about what might be causing these challenges. I have been joined on phone by Daniel Remaforsen. He's an administrator. He's also with the University of Education, whatever. They teach and train teachers. And so I want to add him to the panel for this closing session to try and find out what can be done going into the future to be able to resolve some of these challenges. So, Daniel, Rema Forsen, thanks for joining us on Ghana Connect.
Kweku, I hope you are doing well this evening.
I'm doing very well.
Good evening to your cherished listeners and panelists there.
So, I mean, I want to find out from you briefly. This is a very disturbing development. Generally, people have been condemning it. The teachers themselves have come out to defend that, well, these are not teachers. These are persons who could end up being teachers. What are your impressions about this challenge, and how do we fix it? How do we prevent 83% of persons who have gotten out of colleges of education from failing a licensure exam?
So, first and foremost, I believe the government in general, I've always held the view that they are doing too many try and error with our state institutions. They are doing a lot of trial work with things that we are supposed to hold in high esteem, things that we are supposed to hold sacred and professional. When you talk about the teaching profession is a very sacred profession. I don't joke with it at all, because the lives of children are in your hands, their future are in your hands. You are supposed to guide them, you are supposed to nurture them, you are supposed to ensure they become our future leaders. And teachers who teach them should be coached and properly oriented to give these children good training. I believe that licensure exams in the first place is unnecessary as of now. Very unnecessary, because you can't have someone go to the university, study for 4 years or even 3 years, go through all the rudiments of education and come to write an exams that you sit for an hour to be the yardstick to license the person. Licensure exams or licensing teachers or making us look formal or professional should have been added to the curriculum in the universities. So before you even graduate, before you even come out of the university, you take a licensing test as part of your final exams. You do all these things. And when you are done and you come out of the university, you are a professional teacher. You can be assigned to a class. You can go to classrooms. You can teach and then impart knowledge. It's just like doctors. I don't believe that doctors will go through the university or their courses and then come back and come and write an exams, a license exams that is timed between an hour and 30 minutes, and you go ahead to fail doctors and tell them that their 6 to 7 years of studies, it's not worth it. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I think it's a big disrespect to the noble profession. If government wants to do any licensing at all, anything to formalize our work to make us more professional, it should start with the various training colleges, various universities that are in charge of education or have education as part of their courses. You add a licensing exam or something that will make us professional as part of the curriculum. We pursue that, we come out, and then we are good to go. But someone who completes school, there are some of the things you Kweku Asante or the other panelists sitting there, I'm sure there are things you studied way back in university. If we ask you to provide answers to some of these things, you have some challenges. Of course, you have some difficulties.
No, I will not have any challenges.
It is similar to the teaching profession, and
Daniel,
you will be surprised that
Daniel.
I want to make this final submission on that.
Yeah, I was just saying that I will not have any challenges.
The kind of questions that are given to these teachers do not match the kind of courses they read. Let me give you an example. Someone doing early grade and someone doing upper primary, or someone doing a particular subject. For example, you are mastering in a subject, math, science, social studies, RME, and you ask all of them to sit in one class and solve certain critical questions. In the course outline for someone doing early grade, the person is not going to do anything like indices. The person is not going to do anything like linear equation. It is not in line with what they studied back in school, in the universities. But in your licensing exams, you have test materials
That
like
goes
that.
to it. So I mean, you've really rocked the fundamentals of the licensure exams, and thank you very much, Daniel Mafosin, for bringing in that very fresh perspective from what you said. I'm really grateful for your expertise on that. So let me wrap up with you, Reverend. Reverend, what should happen going forward? How are we going to be able to see a non-recurrence of this? Just in a minute.
Kweku, I think going forward, we'll have to meet as key stakeholders in the development of education to look at the best approach together with the NTC. You see, this is not the first time people are writing exams. So what has happened? That this chunk of teachers, potential teachers, are failed. As I speak to you, we have a lot of vacancies in the country at the pre-tertiary level. You come to my district, the district need about 300 teachers to be in the classroom to teach the Ghanaian children. So what best approach can we have to enable us to get teachers to teach our children? That is what is important.
That is what is important. Thank you very much, Reverend. I mean, very refreshing perspectives. And I have a long message here from Emmanuel Cranton. He's a colleague who is now in the United Kingdom. He's disagreeing with Standoff in principle that training colleges is all-encompassing. In fact, apart from all the courses work they do, there's mandatory placement and internship requirement for the trainees. They are put into schools to work as teaching assistants, etc., monitored by supervisors. But saying we should move from theoretical exams does not solve the problem. In fact, if you read the licensure questions, you realize that many of them are practical questions, practice-based questions which stimulate real classroom experience. You should be able to answer them. I know has a long one. Shandoff, unfortunately, you are not able to get the last word on this because we've just run out of time. Very interesting conversation that we've had. Thank you very much. Reverend Isaac Owusu is the national president of the National Association of Teachers, NAT. Jonathan Junu is the former president of the Teacher Trainees Association. And my colleague Kweku Asante, we're expecting Kweku Asante to join us, but he's had some network issues for which reason he could not join us. My name is Kweku Asante. Next week, same time, we'll come your way with another exciting edition. Thank you very much for tuning in to Ghana Connect. The locker room is up next with the lads, and then